My husband and I recently took our 3 kids on vacation. Let me tell you, traveling with adult children is a lot different from family trips with youngsters. For one thing, no meal planning is necessary, though some important consideration on just how to stock the bar does occur. The only ones worrying about where the bathrooms are and just how far apart they might be are us parents. No rambunctious kids ruining the luxury of sleeping in. We were the early birds, up at the crack of dawn, the 3rd pot of morning coffee, well underway when the kids arose. It was about as easy and pleasant as vacationing in a family group could be. We spent a fair amount of time amusing ourselves through conversation. The kids shared things, drinking games, Spanish phrases, insight into their lives, as in the one night when all announced to some degree or another that marriage and kids weren't anything they were looking forward to. In fact, 2 out of 3 weren't sold on either, ever. And this brought me up short. Life was not supposed to play out that way, at least not the life I'd envisioned. I came to motherhood at 26 when my biological clock switched jarringly into alarm mode and I just couldn't hit snooze anymore. It didn't seem to matter that, growing up, I was not the girl who enjoyed babysitting and had never held a newborn until the doctor slipped my baby into my arms. Everything with our first child was uncharted territory, sometimes terrifyingly so. When numbers 2 and 3 came along, making 3 tots under the age of 6, I'm not exaggerating when I say I lapsed into depression. In the midst of our growing family, it was easy to get overwhelmed and hard not to lose myself, and I worked diligently to carve an independent identity beyond just mom. That's difficult to do when you aren't employed outside the home, so I freelanced, developed hobbies, cultivated friendships, and attempted to stay romantically connected to my hardworking breadwinning spouse. When our youngest graduated high school and left our nest empty, I was excited about a next chapter, eagerly looking ahead to possibilities that had been precluded by my primary focus of caring for my family. But I had always assumed I'd get to be a grandmother. That night, I listened as the kids talked about what was wrong with marriage. Okay, I can agree that you don't have to have a piece of paper to legitimize a long-term committed relationship. Problematic about a partner. Yes, you are wonderful individuals and a mate is not required for personal fulfillment. And burdensome about having children. Kudos for thinking responsibly about procreation. While I stutteringly tried to verbalize why it's all still worth it, my mind was elsewhere, wondering, had I set a bad example? Hadn't I shown them how much joy I took in their young lives? Could it be that I had worked too hard at being a good mother, and what impressed them most about this was a sense of drudgery, that having a family sucks? Later, my husband and I whispered together in the dark. No, we didn't think this was about our failures as parents. Being single and childless was a personal choice, adults recognizing their best interests. Whether who they loved, what they chose to do, or where life led them, we would provide love and support. This was the theme song to the home movie we'd been directing and starring in for almost 30 years, the message we'd reiterated often as they'd matured. After all, isn't every parent's ultimate goal to raise children who love life, function independently, and make a difference in the world? Unlike many, we can, knock wood, check all 3 boxes, and we reminded and comforted each other with this as we talked. And yet, those potentially lost grandbabies kept tugging at me. Why did it bother me so much that my kids might not have children? The answer that came was surprisingly simple. I wanted grandbabies because I'd loved being a mom so much. As I'd focused forward, I'd skipped over mourning that I no longer had youngsters at home. I thought that grieving about their moving away meant I was denying the independent self I'd worked to cultivate. I'd been so afraid of becoming the cliché, the mother who lives so much through her kids that she's lost without them, that I'd banked on the future. But that's not really the way life works. Part of sadness involves remembering, and remembering is about solidifying the past. By taking away those future grandbabies, I'd have to accept that all my babies, quite literally, were gone. So, ultimately, I found reassurance. I realized how lucky I would be if one day my children chose to be parents. I'd be appreciative of my new role, thankful for the opportunity to treasure little ones in the family a second time. But if I am never to be a grandmother, I can be comforted by a lifetime of wonderful family experiences and the delightful company of my adult children. There's really no such thing as just mom, and missing being a mom doesn't make me any less of an individual. Taking the time to reclaim my mothering memories and miss my babies means I can look to the future without regrets. I can let go of the grandbabies. Thank you.